Hello guys, this is Vaish. So day 16, September 17, we'll be doing questions based on economics, and we have already done geography, maps, polity, ancient history, medieval history. So like that in future I'll be doing spectrum, then one more geography test, core geography, then a few more current affair, maybe June, July, August. So like that it will go on, but every day only 10 MCQs you are seeing, and by seeing the quality you would have understood like what kind of questions your competitors are preparing. At least at Vaishya AS they do 6,300 MCQs in total with lot of revision charts, snippet cards, and also they might be regularly watching my videos also, which gives you hundreds of tips to clear the prelims. So if you are doing any good test series, please focus on that alone, okay, because now there is no time to start something new. If it's a test series, you can do mock test how much ever you want, you can do, but please don't start any textbook, okay. And today's questions are taken from pack 8, which is an economics special test, or and it's also there in pack 1, which is the entire test, okay. Now also when students are coming for enrollment, I am discouraging them to take the first pack, because it will be good for us, but we don't want you to simply pile up materials and then not study it, okay. So you can go for subject packs whichever you are weak in, because practically that is the only thing you can complete in 2 weeks. You cannot complete 63 plus test in 2 weeks, okay. So please see to that whichever you are weak in, get those tests alone and then practice. Tips have been given in multiple videos. More videos will come like this. And the 2021, please WhatsApp me, because already 2 batches you have missed, okay. And as I told, 2021 process will be very fast. The exams will go very fast, and there will be no more postponement, cancellation, nothing. So you have only around 8 months left. So please see to it that you start preparing now. So mark your score also at the end of the video. Put it in comment section. Today's first question: arrange the following events in correct order, that is from oldest to newest. Nationalization of banks in India, RBI Act, that is it came into existence, then Banking Regulation Act, then formation of Imperial Bank. So every year now a chronology question is coming, and they are repeating it also. Like they take something and ask like when it is nationalized. Okay, nationalization of Air India it is asked, Bank of India it is asked, then insurance sector it is asked. Everything is almost asked. So if they want, they will again repeat it. So you should know the years when these things happened. With that you can solve it. So if you see here, the first one is formation of Imperial Bank. Okay, 1921, which later will become the State Bank of India. In 1955, okay, that was also asked by UPSC. Then Banking Regulation Act is 1949, RBI Act is 1934, nationalization of bank happened in 1969, okay, during around Indira Gandhi time. So this is the general information, and it is a GK thing, but UPSC asks it, okay. So you have to know all the important years of important events, especially the things which is already asked in UPSC. Currency deposit ratio is the ratio of money public deposit in banks by money held by them in currency, money held by banks in currency by money they deposited in RBI, money banks deposited in RBI by money held by banks in currency, money held by public in currency by money they deposited in banks. Whenever they ask any ratio, take the literal meaning of that and see, okay, like it is currency deposit ratio, okay. So obviously it will be currency on top and deposit at the bottom. So that itself will help you get to the answer. Always your prelims questions are very easy in economics when it comes to these kind of things. So the answer here is money held by public in currencies divided by money they deposit in banks. But there is more concept to it, which was already asked, the money multiplier concept, okay. You should know how the banks work, okay. Banks, how it will work. There is a bank in the center, people are depositing, okay, and they will get a certain interest, maybe 5% interest they are getting, okay, which bank has to give, okay, bank has to give you. So how will they get that? They will take your own money which comes here, they will take your own money and give it out as loan, okay, but that time they will give for some 7.5 interest. So that margin, okay, from that only bank has to get their profit also, and also have to repay you people also. That is how the bank works. So this process is called money multiplying, okay. Money is coming in and then going, and so it's multiplying. So currency deposit ratio shows the amount of currency that people hold as a proportion of aggregate deposit. That is the definition. An increase in cash deposit ratio leads to decrease in money multiplier, okay. Like more people are holding it in their hand, Okay, meaning it's not going to bank. If it doesn't go to bank, then it does not multiply. Okay, so the more higher the cash deposit ratio is, it will lead to decrease in money multiplier. Okay, because it's with the public now, it's not with the bank. And then CDR increases during festive seasons as people need more cash for celebration. Okay, so whenever people has more cash with them, they are not saving, they are not putting in bank, the money multiplier will decrease and the cash deposit ratio will increase. So like this, very literally, if you think, it's a very easy concept. Okay, but when UPSC question came, many students could not solve it last year. And similar terms are there: reserve deposit ratio and cash reserve ratio. Cash reserve ratio is very important, you should know. Like banks keep some money with the RBI for any safety reasons, and also that will be around 4%. That keeps changing. Monetary Policy Committee will decide that. That is CRR, and reserve deposit ratio is the proportion of the total deposit commercial bank keeps as reserve. Okay, like bank, whatever reserve they keep totally compared to their deposit, that is the thing. Okay, reserves per deposit. So that is the meaning of that. So it's everything. If you take literal ratio, literal meaning, it is a very simple concept. Which of the following is the best example of Pigovian tax? So this again, it's there in your textbooks also, but some people may not have studied it. So this is something which has a negative externality. Okay, meaning a Pigovian tax is a tax on any market activity that generates negative externality cost not included in the market price. The tax is intended to correct an inefficient market outcome. Okay, like if there is an industry and it is emitting lot of carbon or lot of something which is negative. Okay, there is a social cost involved in it. So to compensate that, some tax is charged on them. Okay, a penalty kind of thing. So that is what is called Pigovian tax. Okay, the other things, if you see, it's not that. It's for cess is for some purpose, or road taxes for maintaining something. Okay, but carbon taxes when the negativity is kind of purposely coming out. Okay, so this is the Pigovian tax, and there is an opposite of that, Pigovian subsidy. Okay, so it's a subsidy provided to an activity on the ground that is with explicit rationale that the activity generates external benefit, positive externality. Okay, so subsidy is given so that something positive comes out of it. Okay, so meaning negative will not be there. So that is called subsidies, which is given to you. Tax is what is charged from you. Okay, so these are very basic definitions. UPSC sometimes asks definition questions. That is why you should know. Okay, and they will ask like this only. They will ask examples. They will not ask you theory based on that. Which of the following are true regarding Indian economy? The fiscal deficit has been constantly decreasing over the last 3 years. The direct tax collection by Indian states and local bodies are significantly higher than those of the counterparts in the other federal countries. The tax collection by states. So this is also one question every year it's coming, where they'll be giving this statement: constantly decreasing, steadily increasing, steadily decreasing. Okay, and they will give not 3 years, they'll give over a decade or something like that. Okay, so this will be always taken from the latest economic survey only, not anything future or anything which came in the news, because the question will be framed based on that data, because that is more authentic, not the ones which comes in different news channels. So here if you see, this thing is true. Okay, constantly decreasing. If you see, this is the fiscal deficit. 3.5, 3.2, 3.0. Okay, like this. So like this, it has been decreasing in the last this thing. So the direct tax collection by Indian states and local bodies, this is not high, this is low actually. Indian states and local bodies, whatever the taxation they do, that is lower compared to what other federal countries states are doing. Okay, states in other federal countries are collecting more taxes compared to what Indian states are doing. So that is wrong. And as I told, students ask like, should I study all these statistics and all? You need not study, because for one question there is no point in putting effort. Okay, 2 marks will come, you can simply skip that question. Still you have 99 questions in this thing. Okay, so if you don't know some trend, or if you don't know something, please skip that question. That is my advice to you. Please don't apply your unwanted intelligence which you have never acquired from anywhere. You are just building up in the exam hall. That will cost you minus 0.66, and you will maybe regret, because I know many people who fail by just one question. Okay, fail the cutoff. Which of the following are indirect tax of union? Will not be subsumed under GST. So it's an older current affair, older thing. Like GST, you know, it subsumed many taxes. So which one of this was not subsumed? 5 taxes are given. Out of this, 4 are there under GST, but 1 is not there. Which is the one which is not there? So custom duty is not there. If you see here, you know, CGST, SGST, then there is integrated IGST is also there when it is interstate. So these are the things which are subsumed under that. And if you see here, additional custom duty is there, special additional duty on custom is there, and excise duty is there, additional excise duty is there. So all the additional, extra, special, that kind of things are there, okay, along with excise duty. But the base custom duty is still a separate one, okay. So this one you can pause and see, and if you Google again, you will get the same thing. GST will subsume countervailing duty, special additional duty. However, basic custom duty will continue to do its round in import bills. Okay, it has been kept outside the purview of GST, basic custom duty. So if it's written basic custom duty, that's also true. Okay, that is not part of GST. Which of the following are correctly matched? Revenue expenditure, this one, capital expenditure, revenue receipt, capital receipt. This is a basic economic concept. So if you don't know meaning, you have not prepared economics well. These kind of questions in the exam hall, it will take time if you have never heard of this, and then you will keep thinking whether it actually increase any asset or decrease any liability. You will have to think of examples, build up the examples in the exam hall. It will take your time. Okay, here everything is true only. And my students, okay, please do my first economics test. If you keep telling that economics is weak for me, I don't know, that means you have not studied it, because I have covered almost every concept in detail. One economics test is one of the lengthiest tests also which I gave. Okay, every concept you can expect in the exam, like CRR, SLR, repo rate, open market operation, anything which UPSC have asked in the past, which any other big institution in this country is teaching, I have done detailed PDF. So please read this test. Okay, it will take 1-2 days for you, because it's a very lengthy test, but it will explain you every concept in detail. Okay, here also I'll show you the explanation. Like this, with revision chart, I've explained this. Revenue expenditure and capital expenditure. Okay, an expenditure that neither creates asset or reduces a liability is categorized as revenue expenditure. If it creates an asset or reduces a liability, it is categorized as capital expenditure. So like if you see example, revenue expenditure means it's incurred for normal running of the government department, meaning giving salary. All these things are revenue, okay, which you are giving out. Okay, so that expenditure which is for normal running, that is revenue expenditure. And acquisition of a capital asset, okay, that is capital expenditure. Okay, you need it for a capital, and here it does not result in creation of asset. Here it results in creation of asset, because you are building a capital. Okay, so an asset is created. It is recurring in nature and incurred. Okay, like salary every month you will have to give, and this is non-recurring in nature. You don't need to give it every month. It's based on need. And then it is for a short. It is a short period expenditure. It is generally a long period expenditure. Okay, like a build something big means for many years you will have to keep paying. Okay, for that. Then for example, expenditure on medicines and salaries of doctors for rendering services. Here construction of a hospital is a capital expenditure. Okay, so this is a very basic way which we can teach you. Okay, that is where revision charts are given for final revision. Okay, and if you see receipt, okay, government receipt which is neither create liability nor reduce asset are called revenue receipt. Okay, meaning like you get tax, government will get tax, right? So there is no liability there. It's government's money only, which they will use it for development of the country. And reduce asset, they are not reducing any asset. Okay, people are giving tax from their income or however. So all these things, okay, which government gets it, but there is no liability created and there is no asset reduced. So it's a very good kind of collection, revenue collection, where no loss is happening. Okay, and this one, if it creates a liability or reduce an asset. Okay, so you can think of an example there itself. Create a liability means you are borrowing, you are taking loan from a World Bank, you are taking loan from somewhere. That is a liability which you have to give back. And reducing asset means the disinvestment. Like suppose Air India is given a stake is given out, or something is given out. Okay, so that is called disinvestment. So that time money will come in, but your assets are reduced. Okay, it reduces government assets. Even while recovering of loan, if you want to recover, there will be some charge involved in it to get back all the loan. So that and all is under capital expenditure. Okay, so again you can pause and see. So like this with detail, if you see this much detailing is more than enough to understand any concept with example, with quoting from different documents I have taken, and that's how the detailing is done. So all these materials, please see to it that you read so that no doubt comes. Okay, else in the exam hall you will have to think, okay, well, will it do this one, will it do this one? Okay, so this is the explanation for this question. All four are true. Please revise this topic again, a question can come. Which of the following are directly, indirectly the reasons for the balance of payment crisis in 1991? Low forex reserves, less remittance from Gulf country, high oil price, disintegration of USSR. This is mentioned in your R.S. Sharma this thing also. Sorry, Ramesh Singh textbook. Sorry, the author is Ramesh Singh Economics, and here everything is true. Okay, all these things were happening in 1991. There is a chapter for that also. So UPSC have stopped asking these kind of questions which are very static in nature, but still you have to know the reasons so that you cannot miss something if at all UPSC picks up from textbook and asks. Okay, because textual questions are reducing over the years. Which of the following are part of capital account in balance of payment? You know, in balance of payment, there is assets, liabilities, there is this current account, capital account, and under that there are many things. And this is again the starting. Whenever you start learning economics, this is what everybody teaches you. So you should know which of the following are there in capital account. Dividend, interest, remittance, FDI, loan. Here options are very easy. Like, there is no option with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So obviously you have to eliminate few things and you will get the answer. So here the answer is 4 and 5 only. Okay, dividend, interest and remittances are part of current account. Okay, like in economic survey, this is the screenshot taken from one of the economic survey, recent one. So here you can see what is current account, what is capital account, in which all these things are there. SIT, services, income, transfer. Okay, you can buy out like that. Transfer is the remittance and all these things. Income is the interest, dividends, all such things, and services. Okay, here there is a visible component and invisible component. Okay, visible means the goods. So goods is the export import. Invisible means it is the these things. Okay, which is like tangible, intangible kind of thing. Okay, so that is goods and services. And under services, in this invisibles, you have this service income transfer, under which you have the dividend and interest. Okay, and in capital account you have all these things: external commercial borrowing, it's like loan, and here FDI, portfolio, that is FPI. Okay, this deposits which come from outside. So all these things are capital account. So please by heart, this is just 5-10 items, and if UPSC ask, it will be a very easy question for you. Which of the following can be reduced by RBI to curb inflation? This is a typical UPSC question which used to come continuously till 2015. Now they have stopped asking, but still it's a very important concept. So first thing is you should know all these things. Okay, basically RBI has, you know, there is something called fiscal policy and something called monetary policy. Okay, to make our everything correct, the money flow correct. So fiscal policy is taken care by the government. Okay, they do all the things. Monetary policy is done by the RBI. So these are the two broad ways by which this inflation and all these things can be controlled. Okay, deficits, everything can be put in control. So under monetary itself, there is quantitative and there is qualitative. Okay, quantitative and qualitative tools are there which RBI use. So under quantitative you have all these basics things. Okay, repo rate, reverse repo rate, open market operation, then what else is there? Few more things are there. Okay, CRR, SLR. These are things which RBI do, quantitative tools. There is a big difference between what these two are. So please go and study what it is. Again, in my notes, I have given at least 6 pages of notes are there in my economics test. Then qualitative tool is something which is like this one. Okay, loan to value, LTV ratio. Okay, and there are a few more things. Moral suasion. There are a few things which is done. Okay, and it is all selective. Qualitative is also called selective tools. Okay, and quantitative is called general tools. Okay, general or quantitative, and selective or qualitative. And here if you see, all these things are in one side, right? This one, if you have to curb inflation, you have to increase it. Okay, for example, CRR is what? CRR means some money which bank has to keep with RBI. Okay, like suppose out of their full money, they are keeping 4% with RBI, meaning remaining 96% only is left with them. Okay, which again will go into different buckets, and so the amount which goes out to people will reduce, right? So suppose you increase CRR, make it 8%. So now you have only 92%. So obviously the money which goes out to people will less, and when money which goes out to people is less means inflation is curbed. Inflation means what? People have more money. So inflation is curbed by increasing the CRR. Okay, so here increase the CRR, increase the SLR, increase the repo rate. All these things will see to it that people don't get much money. But here what they're asking is what can be reduced, not increased. Okay, so that is why loan to value ratio. And what is loan to value ratio? LTV. Okay, the literal word loan to value. Suppose you want loan and you have the suppose 1 kilo gold. 1 kilo gold you will get suppose 10 rupees simply. Okay, number 100 rupees you will get. Now if it is increased, loan to value ratio is increased means for 1 kilo gold you will get 200 rupees. Okay, so that means when loan to value is increased, the money which goes out to people increase. So inflation increase. But now loan to value is decreased. Suppose 1 kilo you make it 50 rupees. Okay, loan to value ratio is decreased. So money going out to people reduce from 100 to 50. Okay, people will get only 50 rupees for that much amount. Loan to value. So that is why it will help curb the inflation. So here answer will be 1 only. Hope you understood the concept. I have told in very layman kind of language, but that is how you should learn economics. Okay, you should not be studying to become a specialist in economics. You have to know the meaning by applying it to the real world. Okay, you know inflation means people has more money. So how will you curb it? To control it, you need to make sure that people don't get much money. So these three things, if you reduce, it is not working. Okay, if you reduce, people will get more money. It will not help to curb. But this one, if you reduce, it will see to it that people get less money and inflation is controlled. Okay, hope it's clear. Again, read this explanation and much more. Every topic like this I've explained with very basic explanations. Please read it. Last question for today. Abenomics, which has been in news. Okay, it's also there in the textbook. Ramesh Singh refers to what? Economic reforms taken by Japanese PM Shinzo Abe. IMF recommended measures to deal with BOP crisis. Study of phenomenon of double dip recession. Branch of economics dealing with boom and depression. So this is a factual thing, which is now important also because Japanese PM has stepped down from his tenure because of health reasons and all. Next PM will come, so maybe this will be picked up. Okay, this is there in Ramesh Singh textbook since long time. It is reforms which he has taken up, and it is very appreciated across the world. So that is why it is called Abenomics. So please see to it that you read it from Ramesh Singh. Okay. See, it's there since 2012. So that is why it's a concept. Okay, a theory concept. So again, if you want this particular test, if you are weak in economics, please see to it that you get it and study, because you have 2 weeks time, and in 2 weeks time you can easily do these kind of mini packages, whichever area are weak, and you will get maybe 10-15 extra marks in prelims, which will be much easier for you to clear the prelims than struggling in the exam hall. Okay, so contact us in WhatsApp, and if you want 3 free test sample, you can get it. 3 current affair test will be given. 3 free code, send it to email@gmail.com. Okay, so we'll come up with the next video soon. Thank you and have a nice day.